You know, back in the 1970s, we all can remember the first time we saw an earthquake, be it at a movie theater, be it at a drive in, or even the expanded version on television, which added about a half an hour and other major characters to the movie. But for a lot of people, this is the most successful of what you call the disaster movies of the time. Now, directed by Mark Robson, came out in 1974 with Charlton Heston and Ava Gardner as the leads. And ironically, Lauren Green played Ava Gardner's father in the movie, which are only a couple of years apart. Now, the plot, as thin as it is, but it's still quite exciting, concerns the struggle for survival after a catastrophic earthquake destroys most of the city of LA. Now, directed by Robson with screenplay by George Fox and Mario Puzo of Godfather fame. The film starred a large cast of well-known and up-and-coming actors, including Heston, Gardner, Green, George Kennedy, Jean-Vier Bugeaud, Richard Roundtree, Marjorie Gortner, Barry Sullivan, Lloyd Nolan, Victoria Principal, and of course Walter Matthau as the Barfly. It is notable for use of an innovative sound effect called Sense Around, which created a sense of actually experiencing an earthquake in the theaters, and it was celebrated at the Oscars with special awards and obvious nominations. Now, in this one, athletic former college football star Stuart Graff is arguing he's right Remy after he fakes another suicide attempt when a mild earthquake jolts LA. Furious, Graff leaves for work, stopping to visit Denise Marshall, a part-time actress and widow of a co-worker who he assigned to a project that accidentally killed him. Feeling obligated to help her and Corey, her 10-year-old son, Graff brings the boy an autographed football from Frank Gifford from his college days and helps Denise rehearse her lines for an upcoming film shoot. Now, Officer Lee Slade, played by Kennedy, in a great role actually, chases a car thief when intercepted by a rival deputy from a neighboring district when he crosses jurisdictional lines. Already enemies with a history of antagonism, Slade hits the deputy, resulting in suspension. Disheartened, Slade heads to a bar. Now, according to the plot, it's Zsa Zsa Gabor's hedge, and that the person in question had just you're chasing had just killed a young girl, but that's rolled over quite quick. Now, at the California Seismology Institute, the CSI, junior seismologist Walter Russell analyzes the quake and calculates that LA will suffer a major earthquake within the next 2 days. Now, he's played by Kip Nevin of Walton's fame, a very, very good performance. Head seismologist Dr. Stockel and associate Dr. Johnson determine the hypothesis probable and contact the mayor, who, fearful of the social and political consequences, decides to tell the governor of California to alert on the National Guard and policemen as a precaution. Now, in a vacant lot, motorcycle daredevil Miles Quaid, played by the great Richard Roundtree, and his manager mechanic Sal Amici have set up a dangerous stunt track, hoping to impress an LA promoter, so he'll book their act at a hotel. Now, Sal's sister Rosa, played by Victoria Principal, as sort of a white version of a blaxploitation actress, is unconvinced that the stunt will work, fears that Miles will be injured in an attempt, and refuses to help promote it. But she basically does by wearing a very revealing t-shirt, and George Kennedy helps fund some of the project when she shows up the bar to show the shirt. Again, something of its time. Now, another subplot, grocery store manager Jody Jode, who played by Marjorie Gortner, the failed, what do you call, first level preacher of the time, even did a documentary on that, is attracted to Rosa, is a member of the National Guard, and seems to be a Nazi in training until being called up, and he heads home to change into uniform. His housemates harass him for having posters, male bodybuilders on his wall, using homosexual slurs and throwing food at him. Now, another small tremor canceled Denise's film shoot for the day, so she goes to meet her friend Barbara, a secretary at Graff's engineering firm. Graff bumps into Denise in the building's lobby. The pair go back to her house and make love for the first time. Graff then asks Denise to come to Oregon with him and bring Corey while he works on a dam project that summer. Now, Graff's boss and father-in-law, Sam Royce, later offers Stewart the company presidency. Stewart calls Elise to say he cannot see her that evening, and she tells him she wants to go to Oregon with him. Conflicted between a relationship and a promotion, Graff nevertheless decides to accept Sam's offer. At Sam's office, Graff is stunned to find Remy, who convinced Sam to offer the promotion the same to save their marriage. Angered, Graff admits the affair with Denise, deciding to end their marriage. Now, a earthquake measuring 9.9 on the Richter scale then strikes and destroys much of LA. Sam and others are trapped in the upper floors of the skyscraper, which catches fire due to the escape stairs collapsing and the elevator being destroyed by the tremor. Similar scenes are in the Towering Inferno. Now, after many fall to their deaths through the chasm, Sam rigs a fire hose to the chair and lowers the rescue staff down one at a time. Before he can descend himself, Sam suffers a heart attack and Graff climbs up to rescue him before the fire hose snaps. Now, Corey has been catapulted from a collapsing footbridge in the LA River and becomes entangled with electrical cables from a fallen pole. Denise finds him unconscious and climbs down to save him. Unable to climb back out, she hails a passing truck driven by Miles and Sal. After saving them, they meet up with Slade, who knows Miles and Sal, after arresting both a year prior during a biker riot, and commandeers the truck to use as an ambulance, while Miles takes his motorcycle to search for Rosa. Slade stays in the area with additional injured, while Sal drives the rest to a makeshift field hospital being set up at Wilson Plaza, a combination office building, an underground mall, and parking structure that survived the earthquake. Now, the acting at this point in the movie is quite flat, but it picks up quite good. The second half is better than the first half. Now, Rose is mistakenly arrested for looting by a National Guard unit led by Jody. He orders her to stay inside a secluded store for what he says is her safety. More troops arrive with Jody's housemates, who are also being detained for looting. To the shock of the troops, Jody taunts then murders them for the ridicule he has endured. Now, when Graff drives his co-workers to Wilson Plaza, he drops off Remy, Barbara, and Sam. To Remy's protestations, Graff tries to search for Denise and Corey. Sam attended to by Dr. Jim Vance, but he dies shortly after. Now, Graff's car is one of the few surviving vehicles from the quake, is commandeered by Slade as he drives past. Unable to work the manual transmission, Slade makes Graff drive while he takes the last of the injured back to Wilson Plaza. En route, they come across Jody's unit, who has quarantined the only passage through. As Jody threatens to shoot them, Rosa emerges from the store, screaming to Slade for help. Facing the assault rifle, Slade and Stewart turn around and drive away. However, Slade returns on foot and gets a jump on Jody, who is about to rape Rosa, shooting him and rescuing her. Now, an aftershock destroys Wilson Plaza before Graff, Slade, and Rosa arrive there. After Barbara says she last saw Denise, Royce and Remy in the third-level basement garage, Graff tells an Abercrombie Corps engineer's colonel that there may be survivors trapped in an underground garage, which would be accessible via a parallel storm drain. Against the colonel's advice, Graff and Slade use a jackhammer to drill through the garage and find 70 survivors, including Denise, Corey, Remmer, and Dr. Vance. Now, the damaged Mulholland Dam gives way, flooding the storm drains miles away. Denise, Corey, and Dr. Vance make it up the ladder to safety, but just as Remy climbs up some rungs, she is knocked off in the flooded sewer. Graff looks up at Denise, waiting for him at the top of the manhole, but hearing Remy's wailing, he realizes he cannot abandon Remy. Graff swims and reaches her, but overcome by the rushing water, both of them, along with others, are swept away and drowned. Slade, having held on to the ladder during the flood, searches in vain for Graff, but escapes up the street. In tears, Denise turns to Corey, who has regained consciousness. Slade and Rosa survey Ellie's ruins. Stunned survivors mill about the devastated landscape while the fires burn on in the darkness. Now, again, a very, very fast movie. But like I said, dry acting for many times. But it was kind of weird here. You had all kind of sub-characters in here. Scott Hyland's a very good Canadian actor who's also in the Waltons, plays a key sub part, and we have a former and current pro wrestlers that play some of the people in the bar, including the great Hardboiled Haggerty. Now, producer was Bernard Donifield, with Jennings Lang executive producer. Against Fox and Puzo were writers. John Williams had a great score in this, with Philip Lathrop, director of photography, and of course the art director Fred Tuch did a great job. Now, in the wake of the tremendous success of the disaster film Airport in 1970, Universal began working with executive producer Donenfeld and director John Sturges to come up with a new idea that would work within the same disaster suspense genre. Inspiration came in the form of the San Fernando earthquake of February 71. Universal was intrigued by the idea of creating a disaster on film that would not be confined to an airliner, but rather take place on a large area. Now, when Donenfeld and Sturges left the project early in 72, and Universal EP Jennings Lang took over the development, he brought in Robson aboard as producer and director. Now, the big thing was Puzo coming in. He was paid $125,000 to write the first draft during the summer of '72. Now, fresh off the novel and film The Godfather, he delivered the draft script in August. However, Puzo's detailed, expansive script would have necessitated a larger production budget, as the action and multiple story arcs were spread over a vast area in LA. Universal was faced with either cutting the script or increasing the budget. Puzo's involvement with Earthquake was short-lived, as Paramount was anxious to begin development with the follow-up to The Godfather in early '73. Because Puzo's services contractually were obligated to a sequel, he was unable to finish any further work. Now, the Earthquake script sat at Universal for a short period and was brought back to life by the huge success of 20th Century Fox's hit The Poseidon Adventure, which was released in December '72. Fueled by that film's enormous box office receipts, Universal put pre-production Earthquake back to high gear, hiring writer George Fox to continue on Puzo's script. Fox was principally a magazine writer and never had written a screenplay, so Robson worked with him to narrow the scope of the script to fit into the budgetary constraints. After almost a dozen drafts, Earthquake went before the cameras in February '74. Since Robson was also tasked with producing such a complex film, Donenfeld was brought back to co-produce, but was uncredited. Now, budgeted at only $6.6 million, Earthquake immediately found himself in a race against the clock with a bigger budget disaster film, The Towering Inferno, which was being produced by Irwin Allen and financed for the first time by two studios, Fox and Warner's. But get this, $167.4 million at the box office. Now, this was a tremendous... Everybody was watching this movie, and this was before Jaws, ladies and gentlemen. So you can imagine this in 1974, Towering Inferno, epic movie, this, and then Jaws. Just tremendous time to go to the movies, and everybody loved Earthquake. We weren't there for the plot because Charlton Heston and Jean-Vier Bugeaud, at a combined scale of 1 to 10, could only act a 4, and seeing Ava Gardner playing this shrew as, you know, she wasn't really a factor. But Lorne Greene with a mustache was weird too as well. Now, while The Towering Inferno featured a larger all-star cast, Universal was able to land Heston the lead role for only $600,000 plus a percentage of the profits. Rounding out the billing were Ava Gardner, who had starred with Heston in 55 Days in Peking some decade before, George Kennedy, who had by then won a supporting actor, Lorne Greene, and Jean-Vier Bugeaud. Richard Roundtree, coming off the big hit for the Shaft film series, was put in there to attract a black audience. He was brought in after filming it all restarted, again filming the Evel Knievel-like motorcycle part. Now, former evangelical preacher Marjorie Gortner, a controversial addition, was hired as the antagonist, Jody. Relative unknown Victoria Principal, long before Dallas, was hired to play the sister of Roundtree's business partner Sal, played by veteran actor Gabriel Dell. Now, she plays it almost in blackface because she looks like a black actress with the perm and the body, and she's not black. Now, Walter Matthau was cast in a cameo role, for which he is credited as Walter Matuszewski. Executive producer Jennings Lang, who had worked with Matthau on the previous year, Charlie Varick, was able to convince him to appear in the role, originally to be filled by veteran actor Harry Morgan of MASH fame. The unpaid cameo and his credited name were part of the deal. Now, production necessitated the complete redressing of the entire Universal Studios lot in order to simulate the events. Now, extensive use of highly trained stunt artists for the most dangerous scenes involved high falls, dodging falling debris, and flood sequences. It set a Hollywood record for the most stunts artists involved in any film production up until that time. Some people say 141. Now, major stunt sequences in the film required careful choreography between the stunt artists and behind-the-scenes stunt technicians who were responsible for triggering full-scale effects. Now, I consider this one of the best stunt movies of all time. Now, the people, some stunt artists, were only paid $500 to basically do fall correctly. It was quite interesting. Now, in Censor Round, the studios and Lang wanted Earthquake to be an event film, something that would draw audiences in the theater multiple times. After several ideas were tossed about, including bouncing styrofoam foam debris over audience members' heads, Universal Sound Department came out a process called Censor Round, a series of large speakers powered by BGM BGW amplifiers that would pump in subaudible infra-bass sound waves at 120 decibels. Now, the process was tested in numerous theaters around the States prior to the film's release, yielding various results. Now, one negative thing was at Ground in California, where the sensor round cracked the plaster in the ceiling. The same theater premiered Earthquake 3 months later with a newly installed net over the audience to catch any debris, to tremendous success. Now, when I saw this at the theaters, it was at the Capitol Theater in Dalhousie, New Brunswick, and they had the audio system to could do it. Now, the censor round process proved to be a large audience draw, but not without generating a fair share of controversy. When the film premiered in Chicago, the head of the building and safety department demanded the system be turned down as he was afraid it would cause structural damage. In Billings, Montana, a knick-knack shop next door to the theater using the system lost part of his inventory when items from several shelves were thrown to the floor when the system was cued during the quake scenes. Censor Round was again used for Midway, another Charlton Heston movie, Roller Coaster, and of course Battlestar Galactica, again another Lauren Green movie. Now, the 2006 Universal Studios Home Entertainment DVD release features the original Censor Round audio track, duplicating the original theatrical Censor Round track. No actual rumble generator was used, and only the two control tones that activated the generator can be heard. Now, Williams' music for the Earthquake was the second of a trio of scores for large-scale disaster flicks, including The Presiding Adventure and The Towering Inferno. Williams scored both Earthquake and The Towering Inferno in the summer of '74, and both scores show similarities. Now, a strange controversy here. After an October 2nd, '74 test screening in Joplin, Missouri, Universal opted to cut 30 minutes from the film, notably from the pre-quake sequences, at the cost of some of the dramatic flow. This included a narration sequence about the San Andreas Fault and the pending catastrophe earthquake that would occur in either LA or San Fran. The scene was filmed and was set to be shown during the opening title credits, although it was removed at the last minute. It was eventually included as the opening sequence of the NBC television edit for the September '76 broadcast premiere. Also excised were lengthy scenes of Remy and Graff arguing the beginning of the film. After Remy's fake suicide attempt, Dr. Vance, played by Lloyd Nolan, inadvertently informs his old friend Graff that Remy had an abortion 2 years prior. He was later told it was a miscarriage. Angered because he wanted children, Graff storms off. There was more of a Slades leaving the police station, and footage of Rosa leaving the market was shot as well. She was filmed waiting for a bus and being offered a lift from a man on a motorcycle, and this footage eventually was used in the film's TV cut. Just before the earthquake, Stewart and Remy had a final fight in front of Stewart's car, and that was deleted as well. Now, during the earthquake, there were some of nearby lumberyards falling apart, and this was removed from the final cut. Now, other scenes were shot to wrap up many character stories after the earthquake, but were deleted in the final print. Wal Russell and Dr. Stockey, whose fates are undetermined after the quake and the big screen release, were shown alive in the seismology laboratory post-quake. They were shown finding the earthquake's magnitude to be 9.9 on a Richter scale. The film's final scene was significantly re-edited, and originally showed Denise walking up the loose slade as he emerges from the manhole, and asked if Stewart had survived. Upon hearing of his death, she walks over to Corey, who has regained consciousness. Now, a scene involving an elevator loaded with passengers plummeting to 25 floors to the ground during the earthquake is one of the film's most notorious sequences, mainly for how this conclusion was depicted. They originally filmed it with blood, but they did kind of an animation of the blood spurt when it came down. Now, the optical effect was superimposed over a still frame, a part of the unusable footage, resulting in the cartoonish nature of the shot. The television version removed the animated blood sequence, but I don't think it was that effective either way, because stage blood is stage blood. Now, released in November '74, it was the third highest grossing film of the year, The Towering Inferno, but did quite well over the 2 years. Critical response was mixed. New York Times, Nora Sain, the New York Times said, "The impulse to shout advice to the screen, get out, go away, don't enter that building, is quite powerful, as so this rank as a participatory movie." On Review Aggravator, the film only holds an approval rating of 44% from 32 reviews with an average score of 4.9 out of 10. The website's critical consensus reads, the destruction of LA is always a welcome sight, but Earthquake offers little besides big actors slumming through crumbling sets. Metacritic, who uses a weighted average, has assigned the film a score of 56/100 based on 6 critic reviews, indicated mixed or average reviews. Leonard Maltin hated it, calling it a bomb. It has Marjo as a sex deviant and Gardner as Lord Green's daughter, tied for the film's top casting honors. Gardner was only 8 years younger than Lauren Green. Well, like I said, it's, it is what it is. Now, Earthquake became a blockbuster success and again nominated for 4 Academy Awards, including Best Film Editing, Best Cinematography, Best Art Direction, Set Direction, and Best Sound. It won for Best Sound and a Special Achievement Academy Award for Visual Effects for the terrific trio of Frank Brendel, Glenn Robinson, and Albert Whitlock. The film was nominated for 2 Golden Globes, including Best Motion Picture Drama and Best Original Score. Now, the film is recognized by the American Film Institute and lists in 2001 the 100 Thrills movie. Now, what was interesting about this, the original movie is not what many people saw on television. In 1976, they had pre-bought the movie for NBC. Additional footage was added to expand the film's running time so it could be aired over 2 nights as part of the NBC promotion of the big event, fall premiere series. The second night happened on October 3rd before the September 26th airing. Now, according to internal memos from Universal, both Jennings Lang and Mark Robson were upset that Universal and NBC had agreed to alter the original film for its premiere broadcast, with Robson initially refusing to participate, but eventually referring to be a consultant to the editing process for an undetermined amount of money. Editor Gene Palmer was hired to direct the additional footage, with a script provided by uncredited Francesca Turner. Robson petitioned the Directors Guild of America that was specified he was the director of the theatrical version only, which he was granted. Now, while inserting approximately 30 minutes of unused footage shot for the TV version was considered, the TV version made virtually no use of the material that allowed a theatrical release. And in a very unique thing for TV, the incorporated new footage filmed nearly 2 years after the original, using 2 of the original film stars, Margaret Gortner and Victoria Principal, and was as Jesse Vint and Michael Richardson, reprising their film roles as Margaret Gortner's touting roommates, expanding on the original storyline for the theatrical film. Editing and re-recorded dialogue helped integrate the expansion into the original film. A short scene involving Richard Roundtree's character Miles Quaid was scripted, but never filmed. An entirely new storyline shot specifically for the TV version was that of a young married couple, Deborah Lee Scott of TV game show fame, and Sam Bachu flying to LA on an airplane. The husband seeks a job with Royce, a construction company in the film, in fact hoping to work with Heston's character Stuart Graff, while his wife has the eerily accurate ability to see the future with tarot cards. The airliner attempts to land at LA International Airport as the titular earthquake hits, and the airliner makes a touch-and-go landing on a runway that is breaking up, diverting to San Fran. Throughout the remainder of the TV version, the film cuts back to the couple as discuss their future together, and the husband's wish to return to LA and help rebuild his city. Now, the censor on audio in the original film was simulcast and FM stereo in the LA and New York markets and other locations across North America. This theoretically allowed the home viewer with a properly equipped sound system to experience a similar effect as in a theater. Now, the original cut that you see on Hollywood Suite in Canada seems to be chopped, but once the action starts, it's very, very big. Now, theme park attractions. Earthquake inspired the attractions Earthquake, the big one, and Universal Studios Florida and Hollywood starting in '89, while the Florida attraction started in 1990. Now, many scenes from the film, especially those featuring the destruction of LA, have appeared in other productions, often those of Universal Studios itself, effectively allowing them to recoup some of the expenses associated with filming the costly special effects. Some examples include Damnation Alley in '77, Quantum Leap, Galactica 1980, V the Final Battle, Bare Naked Ladies music video for Another Postcard, parts of the film, namely when the big earthquake struck, were used, The Incredible Hulk, and get this, Scarface. It has a scene where Montana is going to buy cocaine from some drug dealers, and the TV set in the motel room shows a scene in this film where the graduate assistant explains earthquake theory to the director of the Seismology Institute. So Universal was cross-pollinating the movie. Now, the purported magnitude of the earthquake in the film, 9.9 on the Richter scale, would make it the largest ever recorded, eclipsing the record set by the actual Chilean earthquake of 1960, which was 9.5. However, such huge earthquakes can only be generated by megathrust faults or asteroid strikes. The numerous faults in California, particularly the San Andreas, the fault implied to have generated the titular earthquake in the film, are the strike-slip type, which historically have rarely produced tremors higher than 8.3 in the Richter scale in recorded history. So it's what they call the sliding scale. Now, the Universal had initially approached Steve McQueen and Paul Newman to start an earthquake, but it had already been signed for the Towering Inferno. So, but Charlton Heston, you might say this is another of his science fiction key ones. Now, a lot of people ask me, I always give reviews of movies. Now, this is almost like an unreviewable movie because it reflects the need at the time for disaster movies or like the B movies. This was the height of the B movies of the 1970s, the height of the drive-in movies, the height of the theater. This before Jaws and the major stuff. This was a big box office hit well into the late 1970s. I'm thinking 3 or 4 years it was getting re-released. But ladies and gentlemen, you know what's going to happen. You know that a certain character wife's going to get killed. You know that Charlton Heston's going to get the chick. Because Charlton Heston, he was successful on his movies. He was betting all these co-stars. But what really stands out for me, where the hell are you going to find Victoria Principal, Marjorie Gortner, Shaft, George Kennedy? I mean, it would have been great to get Paul. Can imagine another scene with Paul Newman and George Kennedy. But there's a scene where the guy says, are you a fanatic or whatever to Marjorie Gortner? Because at that time he was trying to make him his actor rather than a fake evangelist. So there's a lot of shit going on in this movie. But Lauren Green is underused because it's like sometimes you see, you sign your paycheck. What am I doing in this movie? So where else can you find the best of the 50s and 60s? The new actors, like Victoria Principal wasn't Victoria Principal at the time. But like the scene where she's showing her boobs to George Kennedy's given $5 or $10, you wouldn't be able to film that part 50 years later. Because with, sexuality is not celebrated anymore. A nice looking actress with big tits could make money back then. Now you don't even want to mention tits. See, that's what's, say our kids in the hall, let's get tits, were selling money. And a lot of people went to see Victoria Principal showing that shirt. I'm kidding you not. They thought she was going to be nude in the movie. And maybe there's a scene in there that she's nude. But then she started dating Anthony Perkins, but that's another story altogether. So it is what it is. So ladies and gentlemen, if you like what we're doing here, what are 1970 movie tributes, let us know in the like, comment, subscribe, or share. If you like Earthquake, tell me your favorite death scene. The favorite one for me is when Charlton Heston goes down to save Ava Gardner and it doesn't work out, if you know what I'm saying. Thanks for listening, and don't forget, make sure your glasses stay on Monday because the eclipse is coming.